By for us at the JSE to tell us the latest. Arabile, it's over to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Nompu. Well, the market today has performed relatively well considering the negativity that we've seen. It's not much to write home about, but a 0.2% gain for now on the JSE All Share. Really led a lot more by a few banking stocks, particularly the likes of Investec and ABSA Group as well. They're seeing some positive numbers on that front. Investec going up nearly 1.8%, with the ABSA Group, of course, 1.5%. Just a reminder that the Investec numbers that you are seeing here at some point will actually come into one, so that's going to fade into some at some stage as well, and you'll just see Investec PLC as well there. Taking a look at the rand as well, 13 rand 92 against the US dollar, so some positivity as we kick off 2019, of course. Now the sentiment in the sense here is that despite the fact that there will be normalization in interest rates in the United States, Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chair, or the governor of the United States Reserve Bank, shall we say, has decided that it may not happen as quick as we had initially anticipated. So thus meaning that South Africa's rand and South Africa's bond market may seem a little more attractive for a little bit longer, which ultimately brought in a few more stocks and counters as well, feeling a sense of positivity. If you go back onto the equity front as well, I wanted to touch on a stock that has now disappeared, but it's certainly still sitting down quite a bit heavily as well, is MTN actually. And what has happened there is that the company seemingly at the end of last year has gotten to a point where they may indeed be doing away with the $8 billion fine that they had a while ago. And what has happened, however, is that they've been handed around 13 million shares or so, which are certainly bound to help the executives. So the executives being given a total of around 1.3 million shares, the CEO himself getting around 400,000 shares, equating to around 38 million rand worth of shares at a value of around 87 rand 79 when it was handed out in December. So an interesting mark to put out there for MTN, and we'll see how they fare. Of course, this year a whole lot has happened for them in their Nigeria market, and that will be one key element that they'll want to write a line under and perhaps do away with as time goes by, of course. So the market itself has been quite interesting. A lot of green across the board, bringing us to that 0.2 percentage point gain. It has been an interesting one on the oil market. As you can see, they're still below $60 a barrel. That is how South Africa, of course, has gotten all these petrol price decreases, of course, of late. With a much better rand, it may seem that that trend might continue. But of course, we'll only be able to tell at least at the halfway stage of this month, so perhaps later on into next week. But speaking about next week is, of course, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, the first one of January 2019, shall I say. And that January meeting is quite significant. It may be the last time for some time, of course, depending on when President Cyril Ramaphosa announces a new one, that the Deputy Reserve Bank Governor, Francois Groep, will be part of the MPC, thus meaning that there'll be 5 left. And that in itself could be quite an interesting dynamic for how the MPC makes a decision regarding the interest rate decision on whether to increase it or not. But for now, this is the sentiment, this is the mark. Key elements to watch out for, particularly for 2019, that US-China trade war is going to be quite significant, and how that fares for the remainder of the world. Remember that it doesn't just hurt the United States and China, but trade relations across the globe, including South Africa. Emerging markets begin to suffer because we intake and take in a lot from those two nations, of course, the United States and China. Donald Trump shutting down the United States, a whole lot of people not getting paid. That seems to hurt the functioning of the United States, which indeed may hurt a few developed markets, thus bleeding onto the emerging market space. Brexit out in the UK as well, quite significant and very important. So a whole lot to watch out for. Of course, South Africa going to have elections as well in May. That indeed may hurt markets as well, or rather filter into the market picture. We'll unpack that for the remainder of 2019 and see how exactly things fare, and I'll be right here to do it all for you. Back to Nompu in studio.
Well, that's a wrap from us for now. More news for you at the top of the hour with myself.